Hello, greetings, everybody. I want to welcome you here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So, we're here on the Sunday afternoon to do an episode of Commonalities Compared, which will come out tonight. For those of you who are new and have not seen this before, basically, a subscriber friend of mine, Ben, he picks out some rock commonalities. Could be two albums, maybe two bass players, maybe two producers of albums, or maybe two album covers. And he presents them to me, and then I compare and talk about what's the same and what is a little bit different about them. So today we're doing actually kind of an unusual one. He's picked out four, and once you see the four, you will know what I'm talking about. So today, without further ado, we're going to get into the Kiss solo albums that were released back in 1978. Like, lots have been done about this type of thing. Very well covered topic, but I figure we'll do one more. So the Kiss solo albums came out in September of 1978, featuring Paul Stanley, Ace Frehley, Peter Criss, and of course Gene Simmons, who I do not have that album. So the reason I don't have that album is because I originally had all four of these albums in vinyl. I bought them all pretty much on the same day, I think. If not, I know I bought Paul, Ace, and Gene roughly at the same time. I might have bought Peter a little bit later. I can't remember. But anyways, I did have all four of them in vinyl, but as you all know, I gave my vinyl collection to my sister when I moved out, and then I only collected cassettes after I moved out in 85 until 1988 when CDs became the rage, and I went down to Yonge Street to Sam the Record Man in Toronto, and I spent about $300 on CDs, many of which I still have. But none of these were involved in that. The first one I bought was probably the Ace Frehley one on CD, and I have it twice. The first one I played in the car a lot. I believe I left it in the car when I sold it. The disc itself, I still have the cover, and haven't been able to. So I then replaced it, and then I replaced Peter. And then I got Paul, and I've been looking for Gene, but he just hasn't showed up at the store yet. So maybe once he shows up, we'll give him some money, which would probably make him happy, right? So today we're going to talk about these four albums and what they have in common. So obviously the thing that they have the most in common here is they are all members of Kiss. All four original members of Kiss. All four albums released on the same day. I think it was September the 18th, if I'm correct. If I'm not, somebody will correct me, I'm sure. All released in the same year. This is the only four solo albums by an existing band to all come out on the same day. I don't think that, up until this came out, I don't think it had ever happened. It may have happened since then. Maybe some other bands have done it. I don't recall hearing that, though. They all have an artist's interpretation of each member's face and makeup, and each have a different color. In the case of Paul, it's kind of a purpley color. In the case of Peter, it's a green. Gene is a red, and then Ace Frehley, of course, in blue. Each of them showing them with their full makeup, with the different colors. And now, in the case of Paul, he has just the black star and the red lipstick. The Peter Criss also has a red lipstick, but he has a silver nose, black eye patches, and whiskers, as well as having some green right around the eyes. Ace, of course, has that silver makeup, but with black lipstick around the mask that he drew. Each of them drew their own concept too. Gene Simmons, of course, is black on black lipstick on white face. His is probably the most intricate of them, maybe the most difficult to do, but it's hard to say. He put a lot of work into his. It evolved over time. Each of them has evolved over time. Ace has probably been the least evolving over time. He's always had the silver stars. It hasn't really changed much. I think sometimes you will get a bit of a green tinge to his stuff as well. So let's talk about these 4 albums. We'll talk about Gene first because it's the one I don't have. So Gene's album, I initially probably liked this one the best, because at that point in time, back in '78, I was probably still a huge Gene Simmons fan. He wasn't my favorite character at that point, but he was still the most dominant character on the Kiss stage. Most people, whenever people who really didn't follow the band would cite Kiss, they would always cite stuff that Gene did. So he was kind of the bombastic one. The album wasn't too bad. I did initially like it. The song Radioactive being my favorite initially, but some of the other stuff came up a little bit later. Songs like Man of a Thousand Faces. There's one track which name eludes me right at the moment, which is very Beatles-ish sounding, which he does a great. His vocals on the album are fantastic. The sound of his vocals. The songs, there are some really good stuff on that album. Tunnel of Love, Radioactive, Man of a Thousand Faces, but there are some stuff on there not so good. Well, I'm not going to get into that because I don't have the album in front of me. But a solid album. We'll do Ace next since he's on the top. So this is easily my favorite of the 4 albums. Initially, I liked it initially. It wasn't my favorite right off the bat. That belonged to kind of Gene Simmons. But he was much, at this point in time, all the albums were pretty close to each other. Peter was maybe a little bit down. The other 3 very strong. This album has since grown to be a masterpiece for me, and actually is probably my favorite Kiss album, period. I do like this a lot. Everything on it is heavy, very spacey kind of rocky album. Lots of heavy guitar riffing. The lyrics are good. Not fantastic, but good. It really, of all of the 4, the character of Ace Frehley, which is supposed to be a spaceman, this album has most of the music is more like what his character is than is on the other ones. I think, my personal thing. There's a lot of really good drumming on here, as Anton Fig is the drummer here. For those of you who don't know who he is, he was the drummer for Paul Schaefer on the David Letterman show. Yes, yeah, very good. And this was actually produced by Eddie Kramer, very well known. Excellent album, lots of heavy stuff, lots of psychedelic kind of spacey rocks, maybe more spacey than psychedelic rock stuff, and some good poppy stuff too. Peter, he went a complete different direction than the rest. Like, I do like this album cover. It's really well done picture of Peter Criss, I think, or a portrait, I guess is what you would do. They did everything perfectly. He has the most songs on any of the albums, I believe. Yeah, I think the others all have 9, and this one has 10. Very kind of poppy, maybe kind of vocal style music, something you might find in the 50s and 60s, or 40s, 50s, and 60s. Crooner-like stuff. There's a lot of that on here. There's some good stuff on here too. Some stuff I liked quite a bit. This album was produced by Vinnie Poncia, Peter Criss, and of course Sean Delaney, who probably those guys wrote most of the stuff. Some decent kind of 50-ish style, kind of pop rock. Yeah, lots of different styles here. Not really a rock album, like a heavy rock album that you might have got on some of the others. This one is strong though. But probably my least favorite of the albums. But I still think that Peter has the best vocals of any of the members of Kiss. It's displayed quite a bit here, but the songs kind of take away from him. I think both the Ace Frehley and the Gene Simmons album, which I didn't say much about vocally, I think Gene was at his best on his album, and Ace's voice sounds fantastic too. This is the one rock band in history where all 4 members have fantastic vocals. There's very few bands that have that many members singing who all have amazing vocals, at least in that time period. The last album is featured by Paul Stanley. It's a purple color kind of theme here. It's a nice shot of portrait of Paul. I do like the kind of throat kind of thing that he wears here. 9 tracks on this. Some of the strongest Kiss stuff of the 4 is on here. Love and Change, Goodbye, It's All Right, Moving On, Ain't Quite Right. This is a strong album. And over time, it's probably gotten stronger with me. I don't think it's in the same league as Ace Frehley, but it's definitely a strong album. I think easily the second strongest of the 4. Initially, I liked this a lot too. It was right up there with Gene initially, and then over time, Ace overtook both. And I think I think that the difference between this and Gene's album, Gene's has 2 or 3 very strong songs and some great vocals. This has no really bad songs and a lot of very good songs. So overall, I think it's a better album. This was produced by Paul Stanley himself and Jeff Glicksman. Yeah, excellent track, excellent album. Lots of good musicianship. I think Paul shows off his guitar abilities a little bit more on here than he generally has. And his vocals are strong. All the vocals of these 4 albums are among the best that Kiss has ever done, in my opinion. So anyways, those are the 4 albums we talked about today. All Kiss solo albums from the same day in 1978. And just try to give you a shot of all the ones I have here at the same time. I do not have Gene's, as I've already said. Yeah, that's not going to work out, so we're going to do it like this. Got Peter and Paul here. Sounds like almost like a Christian fellowship group. And then Ace. Yeah, excellent album. Excellent collection of albums. I still like them all. I still listen to them on occasion. And I like to say I do kind of rotate them a bit. I would love to have the Gene album, of course, even though Gene isn't as popular as he once was. I still think that album is among his best vocal albums that he's ever done. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Commonalities Compared, featuring the Kiss solo albums from 1978. Please hit the like and subscribe. If you have any comments about the 4 albums or you want to rank them, you can do that too. Or if you just want to talk about what you liked and didn't like about each of them, you can do that as well. And if you have any questions, you can ask questions and I will try to answer whatever I can. So please have yourself a good night, and we will see you again next week for Commonalities Compared. And I think next week, if I'm not mistaken, might be the last episode. We're going to do away with the show for now. We may bring it back. We may take a rest, or Ben may have something else he wishes to do, and we'll see what that might be, and then we'll get to it. So take care and have yourself a good one. Goodbye.